Makes Me Wanna Holler by Nathan McCall. Chapter 44 Choices. It makes me wanna holler and throw up both my hands. From Inner City Blues by Marvin Gaye. I wish there were more successes like Monroe to point to. I wish that somehow brothers everywhere would reach down deep and summon the will to defy the inner hatred driving them to self-destruct. But everywhere I see them giving in, and I'm reminded of it especially when I go home. Sure, there are some among the old crew who are doing all right. Greg kicked his drug habit, got married, and is living clean. Ton, the high school football great and heavyweight thumper, is a Navy chaplain now. Shell Shock works at the shipyard. My brother Dwight got married and settled down. Turkey is hanging. Once he was hustling, now he's got a real job. Nutbrain got married and is giving it a real shot on the straight side. Nate, he said in a recent phone call, I've been working for a year. Ain't that strange? And me, I'm just a tourist in the white mainstream. But ours are the quiet triumphs you seldom hear about. The ones overshadowed by the ugly, depressing things. These days, my visits home have become occasions for mourning, soul-searching, and anger. On one visit, I saw a story splash across the top of the newspaper about the police busting up a $20 million narcotics ring. Listed in the article were several people I had known most of my life. I sighed. It wasn't the first time that day I'd been hit with negative news about the neighborhood, and it wasn't the last. Before the day ended, family members and people I met on the streets told me tale after tale of homeboys, young black men like me, living lives mired in lunacy. Every day in D.C., I read dismal accounts of blacks murdered over trivia, drugs, a coat, a pair of sneakers, pocket change. The people in these stories are faceless to me. I peruse the accounts with detached sadness, then turn the page. But in my hometown, the names conjure images of real people who live down the street, around the corner, on the next block. My trips to Cavalier Manor provide a distressingly close-up view of Black America's running tragedy. When I'm there, it dawns on me over and over again that this endangered species thing is no empty phrase. Most of the dudes I grew up with are either in prison, dead, drug zombies, or nickel and dime hustlers. Some are racing full throttle towards self-destruction. Others have already plunged into the abyss. Kenny Banks got life for dealing drugs. Frog got shot in Lincoln Park. Lep just got sprung from a 3-year bid, and Shane was recently sent to prison. He shot a man several times, execution style. He got life. Of the 10 families living on my street when I was growing up that had young males in their households, 4, including my own, have had one or more of those young men serve time. Often, when I go home, I prepare with a pep talk to myself and a pledge to focus on the positive, to spend time with family and old friends who are doing well, and to seek out opportunities to lend a compassionate ear to those not so well off. I know I will see former buddies, old hoods, hanging on the same corners where I left them years ago. I see in them how far I've come. I'm not sure what they see in me. In exchanges that are sometimes awkward, they recount their hard knocks. I say little about my establishment job or the new life I've found. What should I say? Get a job? Go to college? Adopt my middle-class success strategies? The fact is, I know what they've been through, and I understand what they face. I took the plunge myself, many times. Many people are puzzled about the culture of violence pervading black communities. It's so foreign to them. Some wonder if there is something innately wrong with black males, and when all else fails, they reach for the easy responses. Broken homes, misplaced values, impoverished backgrounds. I can answer with certainty only about myself. My background and those of my running partners don't fit all the convenient theories, and the problems among us are more complex than something we can throw jobs, social programs, or more policemen at. Shane and I and the others in our loosely knit gang started out like most other kids. Yet somewhere between adolescence and adulthood, something inside us changed. Our hearts hardened, and many of us went on to share the same fates as the so-called disadvantage. I'm not exactly sure why, but I've got a good idea. A psychologist friend once explained that our fates are linked partly to how we perceive our choices in life. Looking back, I see that the reality may well have been that possibilities for us were abundant, but in cavalier manner, we perceived our choices as being somewhat limited. When I read about shootings in urban areas and at home, I often flash back to scenes in which I played a part. It's hard for me now to believe I was once very much part of that world, and harder still sometimes for me to adapt to the one I crossed over into. My new life is still a struggle, harsher in some ways than when I left. At times, I feel suspended in a kind of netherworld, belonging fully neither to the streets nor to the establishment. I have come to believe two things that might seem contradictory. Some of our worst childhood fears were true. The establishment is teeming with racism. Yet I also believe whites are as befuddled about race as we are, and they are as scared of us as we are of them. Many of them are seeking solutions, just like us. I am torn by a different kind of anger now. I resent suggestions that blacks enjoy being righteous victims. And when people ask, what is wrong with black men, it makes me want to lash out. When I hear that question, I am reminded of something Malcolm X once said. I have no mercy or compassion in me for a society that will crush people and then penalize them for not being able to stand up under the weight. Sometimes I wonder how I endured when so many others were crushed. I was not special. And when I hear the numbing statistics about black men, I often think of guys I grew up with who were smarter and more talented than me, but who will never realize their potential. Nutbrain, a mastermind in the ways of the streets, had the kind of raw intellect that probably could not be gauged in achievement tests. Shane, who often breezed effortlessly through tests in school, could have done anything he wanted with his life had he known what to do. Now he has no choices. When Shane was caught in the police manhunt several years ago, I considered volunteering as a character witness, but dismissed the notion because I knew there was no way to tell his jury what I had been unable to articulate to a judge at my own trial. How could I explain our anger and alienation from the rest of the world? Where was our common language? Most people, I'm sure, would regard Shane's fate with the same detachment I feel when reading crime reports about people I don't know. But I hurt for Shane, who will likely spend the rest of his days behind bars and who must live with the agony of having taken a life. I hurt more for Shane's mother, who has now seen two of her 4 sons go to prison. A divorcee, she now delivers newspapers in cavalier manner. I saw her recently after she tossed a paper onto my parents' doorstep. Her hair had grayed considerably. We hugged and chatted. She seemed proud that I had turned my life around, but I felt guilty and wondered again why I got a second chance and her sons did not. After an awkward silence, I got Shane's prison address from her and said goodbye. I wrote to him and he wrote me back. I broke down and cried when I read the letter. Yo, Nate, I am sorry that I didn't get back with you before now. I am fine and everything is going well with me. I know that you are still doing well. I am proud of you, Nate. Now I have my mind in the right frame of thinking with this long-term bid of mine. but I did what I had to do. There was more to it than appeared in the papers. Anyway, I will keep in touch with you from now on. I am really heavy in the Quran now, and I am truly a warrior from the spirit within me. I know what and where my life will lead me from here on. Peace be with you, brother. Later, Shane. For those who like answers, I have no pithy social formulas to end black on black violence. But I do know that I see a younger, meaner generation out there now, more lost and alienated than we were, and placing even less value on life. We were at least touched by role models. This new bunch is totally estranged from the black mainstream. Crack has taken the drug game to a more lethal level and given young blacks far more economic incentive to opt for the streets. I've come to fear that of the many things a black man can die from, the first may be rage, his own or someone else's. For that reason, I seldom stick around when I stop on the block. One day not long ago, I spotted a few familiar faces hanging out at the old haunt, the 7-Eleven. I wheeled into the parking lot, strolled over, and high-fived the guys I knew. Within moments, I sensed that I was in danger. I felt hostile stares from those I didn't know. I was frightened by these younger guys, who now controlled my former turf. I eased back to my car and left, because I knew this, that if they saw the world as I once did, they believed they had nothing to lose, including life itself. It made me want to holler and throw up both my hands. All right, that brings us to the end of this chapter and to the end of this book. Makes Me Want to Holler by Nathan McCall. Thank you for coming along on this journey with me. I appreciate you guys who stayed with me from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 44. It took me a while to get it all out there. But one of the things I learned from taking on this audiobook endeavor is to see things through to the end. And it's also to be careful what you start if you don't want to finish it. Because if you start it, you should finish it. I feel exactly where Nathan McCall is coming from and how he was feeling at the end of this book. Like if you take a look around and you look at the predicament we find ourselves in as black men and women, especially here in America, it is something that can be very depressing. It almost seems like, man, there's no hope. Like, how do we get ourselves out of this mess? But I had that feeling early on in my journey into consciousness. I give thanks to the likes of Brother Panic, Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, Asir the Duke of Tears, Brother C. Freeman L. So many scholars who came beforehand and left some knowledge behind for me to pick up into, assimilate into myself. Dr. Delbert Blair. There's too many to count in a sense. But one of the key takeaways that I've gotten from my learning and my journeys and my observations is that you really have to wonder just how special black men and black women are, that there is this whole entire system designed to keep a foot on our necks. Because if that system wasn't in place, if we were left to our own devices, we would naturally just rise to the top. We would rise to our natural state. And that natural state of ours is something that the powers that be, they fear that. If you look at the world and how it follows hip hop and how we black Americans set so many trends, it's clear to see that the world follows us even in our ignorance. So if they're following us in our ignorance, imagine what impact we can have on the world if we were operating within our right mind. Because right now we're crazy out here as a whole, collectively. This doesn't make sense, the things that we're doing. To me, it seems like we're fighting for the best job on the plantation. Instead of saying, fuck this plantation, we'll tear this down and do something else. But we've been conditioned to believe that, well, we have to operate within this system, and what could be better than this? It's interesting. Like Nathan McCall wrote this before there was a such thing as social media. Social media has altered our mindsets in such a way that I don't think anyone could have seen that coming. But again, I'm confident in what the future brings, what we can do right now by learning to better ourselves. Nathan's whole life changed when he decided he wanted better for himself, so he went about bettering himself, whatever that was for him. Studying, fasting, having a conversation with other like-minded individuals. And his path, it became clear to him. He had an idea what he wanted to do. I know our key thing that we need to do is learn more about ourselves. Not even black people as a whole. Learn about yourself. And that's going to look different for everyone. Because when you're your best version of yourself, there's nothing that can hold you back. But right now, we have a society full of people, a society full of black people who don't worry about being their best selves. They worry about entertainment. They have to worry about bills. And that's some of the same worries that I have myself. Like, yeah, man, like bills that's something else. Figuring out this monetary system. And that's something else that they've designed to where it can almost take up all of your time just figuring out how am I going to get money to survive, to where you don't have time to put into yourself. But I urge you to carve out that time. Find some time to study yourself. I'll watch some videos on how you go about doing that. There's some journaling techniques where you get these prompts. It's called shadow work. You get asked a series of questions and you have to answer it. You have to write it down and dig deep and really think about what the answers to those questions are. And the more you do that, the more insight you'll get into yourself. And from having that understanding of yourself, you can come up with solutions for yourself. It's like I said, this system is designed to keep a foot on our necks. But as soon as you decide, well, I don't want that foot on my neck anymore, you can get it off you. Again, I thank Nathan McCall for writing this book and sharing his story with us. His openness, his honesty, that I can see. The stories he was willing to tell is it's mind-boggling in the sense that if I had done half the things that he said that he did, I wouldn't want to share that with anybody. But he shared it, and we can learn from it. He went to prison, but he made it out, and he hasn't gone back. Not really, in a sense. And that's a wonderful accomplishment in itself, because we know how hard it is for brothers who've had a prison stint to stay out of prison once they've gone in. It's almost like some of them can view it as the easy button. Well, I can commit another crime and come back to prison, and everything's all set for me. I don't have to build anything for myself or for my community. But yeah, man, I'm going to do a deeper dive into this book. Again, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. I hope you've enjoyed reading this. Share this story with someone else. There's a bunch of young brothers who would do well from listening and learning from this story. Either read it with them or have a listen with them. The entire book's on my page now. So, read that or listen to it with them and have some discussions. Because I guarantee you they have questions. Questions on how to make it in this world and survive and be sane. Because that's something else. You don't want to, be successful in this road, but not be in your right mind. Having that peace of mind, having that consciousness, that's the ultimate goal. I left something behind myself for those who come behind me. I called it Free Your Mind to Have Peace of Mind. 7 Practices for Supreme Peace. I wrote that book because I knew people were having a hard time keeping their minds clear and having that peace so they can make the best decisions for themselves. Like, one thing's for certain is that problems are going to arise in life. But if you have peace of mind, there's not a single problem that you can't figure out. You got to have that full confidence in yourself to be able to solve your own problems or go to the right people and know who to go to get your problem solved. So make sure you hit that like button, hit the share button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and click the link in the description of this video to go to my ebook, Free Your Mind to Have Peace of Mind, 7 Practices for Supreme Peace. You guys be on the lookout for the next video that I'm doing. And Ron's Library and Ideas, his channel is going to continue to grow. And I'm going to continue to share, ideas and books that have shaped my life for the better. And as we do more and more of that, as you learn and share with the circle that you have around you, or the people who are close to you in your life, that's how we change the vibration of this very thing. By going within. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. And I'll see you in the next episode of Ron's Library and Ideas. Peace.